What's up, everybody? Trevor Starkey here from TrevorTrove.com, here with my impressions to the EA Play conference this afternoon, kicking off E3 2016. Overall, pretty lackluster. I wound up being they hit a lot of the same beats as last year. You had kind of a lot of the moments last year that kind of jumped out at people as kind of laughingstock moments, being like the Hoop God moment and the Pele moment, were kind of weirdly recreated this year with the career mode character in FIFA 17, as well as the manager whose name I don't know because I don't follow football or soccer. Yeah, and then you also had EA kind of replicating their success with Unraveled and Yarny last year by launching off the EA Originals this year and bringing out another very excited, awkward developer to talk about another new, exciting, smaller game for EA. In this case, Fee from the guys at Zoink Games, I believe is what it was. So yeah, overall, it was very lackluster. It started out pretty strong with Titanfall 2. I didn't play the first one, but the inclusion of a career mode on this one has me a little excited, and I was definitely intrigued by kind of the little single-player campaign trailer that they showed off. I think that has the potential to be a very touching-esque Iron Giant type story, so I might actually dive into that when it launches October 28th. From there, you kind of had the dueling conferences. Since this was a dual live event, you had the event going on in LA as well as an event going on in London. And so you kind of had them weirdly bouncing back and forth between the two shows, which for those of us streaming from home was fine, but I got to imagine it was probably pretty weird for the people sitting in the audience to have half of the show be there and then the other half of the show be projected from across the Atlantic. So let's see. After Titanfall, we had Madden 17. We had Mass Effect Andromeda came out with a very disappointing little snippet of really still not knowing much about that game, especially if it's supposed to come out in the first quarter of next year. They said we'll know more come this fall, which, okay, great. Yeah. After that was the big FIFA moment with Alex Hunter, presumably an actor out there performing, just like Hoop God was last year, kind of showcasing the career mode of the game, which seems to be echoing things that you see in like the wrestling games or the most recent was it NBA 2K story mode, I think, Spike Lee. So it seems interesting if you're into FIFA, and then apparently also including managers for the first time was a big thing that they decided to devote a lot of time to. For me, it just fell really flat, and it felt flat for a lot of the audience, even though that was like revealed in the London side. I did appreciate that like the audience kind of booing some of Peter Moore's choices of who some of the iconic managers were. That was amusing, but the interaction with the manager that they brought out fell very flat. So then you had Patrick Sutherland come out to kind of recreate last year's Yarny moment, announcing EA Originals, a new game called Fee, Fee is how they were saying it. He was saying it Fee, and then the creator was saying Fee. It definitely looks like an interesting little small game, atmospheric, sound, playing with platforming. I wrote that it kind of looked like and and the gameplay seemed to be kind of a mix of Ori and the Blind Forest and Tearaway. So I'll be interested to see kind of where that falls. Ultimately, I ended up very underwhelmed with Unraveled. It was a little too floaty for me, but I absolutely love that EA is dedicating resources to this initiative of EA Originals. I just don't think it showcases well, or it showcased it. Well, no, that's not. I don't mean to say that, because it ended up being one of the little highlights of the show. But it was so note for note of last year that it just kind of, it wasn't new this time around like it was last year with Yarny. So that was a bit of a bust. I hope the game kind of shows well and performs well, though, because it's great that they're getting behind smaller studios for these things. Then we got a big montage of all the Star Wars games that are in development, and saw very little of anything. They kind of bounced around different studios and had little interviews going on. The most interesting thing for me was probably the fact that in one of the shots during kind of the Battlefront conversation, they confirmed that Battlefront 2 is coming out next year, and that the Visceral game Amy Hennig is working on is coming out in 2018, and then the Respawn game is coming out sometime after that. But one of the most interesting things from the video itself was a shot of somebody playing some kind of Star Wars thing in a VR headset. So we'll see what that turns into sometime. But ultimately, it was very much of a, we have nothing to show you, so here, we're going to do the same thing that we did a couple years ago and just kind of give you a bunch of talking heads and maybe a bit of concept art and like 3 seconds of footage from the Visceral game. And I try not to blame EA for that being a big letdown and disappointment, as opposed to, people like me, people like the guys at Kinda Funny or something, talking about how excited they are and how much they hoped that they would see something from Visceral. Because even Visceral's, or even EA's been saying, no, that game's still a couple years out. So it's not EA's fault that the hype around the event was trying to predict or will it into existence that it would be there. But it is still disappointing that they had so little to show of really anything of note in that regard. So after Star Wars, we had Battlefield 1 kind of close out the show. The big thing that they were doing after the conference was they were going to do the first kind of multiplayer live stream with a 64-player match, featuring apparently people like Jamie Foxx and Zac Efron playing it, because they cut to them. That was weird. That was... Yeah. This is just a lot of a miss of a conference. I don't know if it hit better if you were in the room. It didn't sound like it did. The trailer looked really cool. Battlefield trailer looked great. But the conference overall just kind of didn't sell it. So Titanfall and Battlefield to kind of open and end the show were probably definitely some of the highlights, alongside the kind of the small little game, the little engine that could kind of games that they're going to keep incubating through this new EA Originals program. But there was just a lot of slog to get through to those 3 kind of moments. So it was, especially since they left E3 proper this year to do their own thing and do their own fan event that's going to run over the next couple days. I don't know why they repeated so many of the same moments that disappointed people and left fans underwhelmed from last year. So those are my thoughts on the E3 2016 EA Play conference from this afternoon. Sorry. As far as my predictions went, one of my predictions was Madden was going to be promoted with an athlete. No, but I gave myself a quarter of a point because they had an awkward moment with an iconic sports person in the FIFA talk with the manager, whose, again, name I don't know. So I gave myself a quarter of a point there. I I predicted an extended look at Mass Effect Andromeda and a March release date. Didn't happen, but I did throw in my prediction that we would get the FemShep equivalent in the trailer that they would show, and that was how it ended. It ended with kind of the female protagonist waking up. So I gave myself a quarter of a point there. Visceral's Amy Hennig Star Wars game, I predicted for Holiday 2017. And a title, nothing, 0 points there. I predicted the Criterion GoPro game would show up. It was a no-show, nothing there, 0 points. And then Titanfall 2, I predicted that we would get a campaign trailer. There would be a live multiplayer match shown during the conference, and that it would be released in September. We got the campaign trailer, so I'm giving myself a quarter of a point there. But then the live multiplayer thing, they ended up giving that to Battlefield 1 in a post-conference event, and it's coming out October 28th, so I was a month off in my prediction there. So overall, 0.75 out of 5 points. Not off to a great start. I'm hoping Bethesda helps me turn it around later, but we'll see. It's all fun. All pointless, nonsensical fun. So those are my thoughts on the EA conference. Thanks for tuning in. You can read the whole recap of events over on trevortrove.com. Follow me on Twitter at SnarkyStarky, and leave your thoughts on the conference in the comments below. Thanks for watching.